Hi, True Movie Synopsis here. Today, I'm going to explain comedy and romance film called Just Go With It. Danny Maccabee is a successful plastic surgeon in Los Angeles who feigns an unhappy marriage to get women, after having been heartbroken on his wedding day 20 years ago. The only woman aware of his schemes is his office manager Catherine Murphy, a divorced mother of two. At a party, Danny meets Palmer, a 6th grade math teacher, without his wedding ring on, and they have a connection together. The next morning, she ends up finding the ring, and she assumes he was hiding the fact he was married. She refuses to date him because her parents divorced due to adultery. Danny goes to Palmer's school to try to woo Palmer back. Instead of telling her the truth, he tells her that he is getting divorced from a woman named Devlin, named after Devlin Adams, whom Catherine had mentioned was an old college sorority nemesis. Palmer then insists on meeting Devlin, and Danny agrees. Danny asks Catherine to pose for him, and they go shopping on Rodeo Drive to buy her clothes so she can look like a trophy wife. At a hotel having drinks, Danny and Palmer are greeted by a maid over Catherine, who gives them her blessing. However, after hearing Catherine talking on the phone with her kids, Palmer assumes that her kids are Danny's as well, which Danny goes along with. Danny then privately meets with Catherine's kids, Maggie and Michael, to get them to play along. Initially, Catherine is furious, but she reluctantly agrees. Palmer meets the kids, with Maggie using a fake British accent. Michael blackmails Danny in front of Palmer to take them all to Hawaii. At the airport, they are surprised by Danny's cousin Eddie, who has taken the disguise of Dolph Lundgren, an Austrian sheep salesman and Devlin's lover. At the resort in Hawaii, Danny and Catherine run into the real life of Devlin Adams and her husband Ian Maxstone Jones, who allegedly invented the iPod. Because of Catherine and Devlin's longtime rivalry, Catherine introduces Danny as her husband. Danny and Palmer spend time with Maggie and Michael, during which Michael breaks down. He says that his real father won't make time for him, causing Palmer to get upset. Palmer resolves to spend time with Catherine so Danny can spend time with the kids. Danny teaches Michael how to swim, and Catherine and Palmer look on in admiration at Danny winning the kids over. Catherine runs into Devlin, who invites her and Danny out to dinner. Eddie agrees to take Palmer out in the meantime. At dinner, Devlin asks Danny and Catherine to tell each other what they admire most about each other. They end up saying honest things to each other, with Catherine admiring his sense of humor, and Danny liking the fact that he's never had to lie to her. Danny and Catherine start to feel a connection, but when Palmer and Eddie return from their dinner date, Palmer suggests that she and Danny get married. Danny and Catherine are both surprised by her proposition, but Danny ultimately agrees. Danny later calls Catherine regarding his confusion, but Catherine says that she will be taking a job in New York City she mentioned to him earlier to start fresh. Palmer confronts Catherine regarding getting married to Danny, as she has noticed Danny's feelings for her, which Catherine dismisses. Catherine then runs into Devlin at a bar and admits that she made up being married to Danny to avoid embarrassment. Devlin confesses that she's divorcing Ian because he's gay and also that he didn't really invent the iPod. Catherine confides in Devlin saying she's in love with Danny even though they won't be together. Danny, however, shows up behind her, telling her that he didn't go through with marrying Palmer and that he's in love with Catherine and the two share a kiss. Danny and Catherine continue their vacation without Palmer, who heads back to the mainland alone, meeting a professional tennis player, and erotic Brooklyn Decker's real-life husband, on the plane ride back who shares her interests. Sometime later, Danny and Catherine get married.